Welcome to ET Auto. Today I have a very privileged guest. I have the Managing Director of Bridgestone India Pvt Ltd, Mr. Parag Satpute. He has been a long veteran of automotive industry in different formats. He has worked and has an extensive experience. Since 2017, he heads the overall operation for Bridgestone India and has been extensively working in the UK, Germany, Sweden in various executive roles. Mr. Satpute, I welcome you to ET Auto. We are a digital
Thank you very much.
platform. Thanks, sir. We are a digital platform, and these times of COVID, we are trying to become a bit distinct by engaging with industry captains and trying to understand how the automotive industry, which is a big backbone of organized manufacturing in India, what role it is playing in terms of taking India forward despite the crisis and challenges we are facing. Uh, that brings to uh, that brings me to my first question. That how do you see this happening in a market like India? Japanese brands are very preferred. Indian customers have been buying Japanese brand, and you are a major player, the world's largest tire company, and a Japanese brand. Uh, how has been the journey, and what has been the times of Bridgestone in India, especially in a market where customers have a huge preference towards the Japanese technology, craftsmanship, and the end product?
So first of all, let me thank you for having me on this platform, Mr. Chauhan. It's a pleasure and honor to come here and share with your viewers our journey in India as well as how we are coping with the current environment. Like you rightly said, there are many successful Japanese companies in India, and Japanese products in general are known for their high quality and also the great value that they bring to their consumers. Bridgestone's journey in India started more than 20 years ago. We came here in 1997. We set up our first plant in Indore, which got operational in 1998. And since then, we have seen our business grow in leaps and bounds. As you said, Bridgestone is the largest tire company in the world. We have been at a number one position for the last 11 years. And it's only natural that India being a fast growing market, Bridgestone was very keen to come into India and set up a base. Um, so today we are operating in two major spaces in India. We are operating in the passenger car tires, where we have a leading position, and we are also operating in the commercial vehicles, which is the truck and bus. That was a segment we entered more recently in 2013. Also, from our start in Indore, where we have our first manufacturing plant, we have now gone on to set up our second and larger manufacturing plant in Pune, a place called Chakan. I am operating out of there because that is our head office. And we have got approximately 47 warehouses and sales offices across the country. So, in these 20 years, we have really developed a strong infrastructure and also very strong partnerships with the customers and dealers. So today we have more than 5,000 dealers who are selling Bridgestone products all across the country. And of course, we have very strong strategic relationships with all the major auto OEMs. So I must say it has been an exciting and a fruitful journey for Bridgestone in India.
In the COVID times, manufacturing has been a major challenge, and a tire plant and the entire operation involves large-scale manufacturing, huge number of people, massive resources. How has been the going so far?
Yeah, so tire plants, by very definition, have a very, very heavy capex, very, very capital intensive. So across our two plants, we are employing directly more than 3,000 employees. And then when the whole COVID situation hit India towards the end of March, of course, we, like all other industry and all other companies, went into a lockdown. So we were basically in a lockdown for the better part of 2 months, I would say. And April, the month of April, was an unprecedented month for the automotive industry in India, where all shops were closed. There was no one out on the roads. So the revenue during that time almost dropped to zero for everyone and for us as well. After that, we have started to see a gradual reopening. So since May, we started to bring back some of our people. And when such huge equipment is shut down, we have to be very, very careful when we start it up again. And for Bridgestone, safety is the most important priority. quality comes very close by, and then fulfilling the needs of the customer. So we took our time, we took a good 15-20 days to ensure that all the machines were set up and restarted in a very, very safe way. We also took extra care that the quality of the products which is coming out meets all our global standards. And I'm very happy and proud to say that we are now back on track and we have started our regular operations at both our plants. And also glad to see that the demand from our customers has started to pick up as well.
So what kind of operational efficiency you are operating? You are back to 70-80% or higher than that?
So different parts of our business are seeing ramp up at different pace, I would say. So we are operating, like I told you, first in the passenger car and then the truck. So obviously the truck part was never completely shut down because the movement of goods was allowed all the time. So that part of the business has been more or less ongoing, and that has come back much faster. The passenger car is just now starting to come back. Even within that, we have the two segments. We supply to the auto manufacturers, and then we are also supplying to the replacement market or aftermarket. And the aftermarket has been coming back much quicker, which again is a no surprise. People, once they brought their cars out, once they brought their trucks back on the roads, they wanted to ensure that they have the safest tires in place. So that part of the business has moved back, coming close to where it used to be, much faster than the auto OEMs.
I just want to hear a clarification from you with regard that what do you see a better business proposition today's time that OEMs are gradually ramping up production? Do you see better demand outlook in coming months from the replacement market or the OEMs?
So the replacement is going to come back sooner, and we are experiencing that already. So we are seeing that certain parts of the country are they are opened up much faster. So the dealer shops have opened up. People have started regular purchases. So replacement will come back faster for sure. Uh, but the thing with the OEMs is once they get their big operational engines going, then the volumes from them can ramp up pretty soon. So we are hoping, I think, for all of us, for the economy and for our own businesses, that the auto companies come back to normal operations pretty soon so that we can start supplying.
In the COVID situation, what kind of change in strategy you had to make for 2020? What is the impact, and what kind of alterations that were required as you move ahead?
Good question. Good question. I mean, first of all, this COVID situation was totally unprecedented. I mean, I know everyone has said that it's almost a cliche, but I
Yeah.
cannot, imagine. I mean, just in the middle of March, things seem to be okay. This problem hit us with so much speed and all across the world that no one was really prepared for it. Now, going forward, I think it is still going to be a very uncertain period. As we are witnessing around us, some parts of India are opening up faster than others. In some cases, when the COVID infections are rising again, parts of the country are going back into lockdown. So there is a very high volatility. So there is a lot of uncertainty of how things are going to pan out. In such a situation, I think for any business, agility is the most important thing. We need to be able to quickly respond to the changing scenario on the ground. And that is the major focus that me and my company are having, that we want to be able to respond the fastest to any of the demands that our customers are placing, and to make sure that we can meet those demands. And if there are situations where there is an increase in COVID cases in some parts, we should be also very quick to close down our operations so that we can maintain the safety of our people. So agility is the main focus going forward in the next few months for ourselves as a strategy and as our tactics on the ground.
That brings me to the question that you also partly answered earlier. In the light of COVID, what is your capex and investment plans? Because massive manufacturing, Tyre is a very different business altogether. Have your capex investments getting altered because of COVID?
So, to be honest, it's a very short time. I mean, we have just been into this 2 months. So, at the moment, our focus is to secure the safety of our people and then now to secure the ramp up. Going ahead, we will reassess the strategy for the next few years, and in turn, that will help us decide what should be our investment plans. Being a Japanese company, we have this uh, annual midterm planning process, which
Okay.
happens every
Okay.
year.
Yeah.
And it starts in the month of May and then culminates towards the end of October, November, with the budget for the next year and a strategic plan for the next 5 years. So we
Okay.
have just gone into our next strategic planning process, and through this period, we will reassess the situation on the ground. But to be honest, I think uh, our faith in India as a market is not going to change. India is a long term growth market. We will continue to hold that view. So I don't think that strategy is going to change. We will just need to reassess how we need to react in the short and medium term.
In the medium to long term, how do you see the potential and challenges for the tire companies, especially in the light that much is being said that people will be shifting towards personalized transport? Already, if I can share with you what my sources in the automotive industry are saying that June gonna be a good month for OEMs in terms we would be selling more than 100,000 cars. The two-wheeler segment is doing better in terms of rural markets have really bounced back. So it's not all gloom over, but still the prospects are good. So how do you see the challenges and opportunities for tire makers?
So really good to hear from you that
Yeah,
there are green shoots in the economy. I think we all need it. We all need it. So we will be prepared to take on whatever extra demand is coming in the market. Now, coming to my personal view on what is the midterm opportunity and challenge for the tire companies, I maintain what I said. India is a market where the auto penetration is still very low. India is a market where the affordability of the cars is still very low, but is growing very fast. So, from the mid to long term, I definitely see that the tire industry is also going to continue to grow along with the auto industry and along with the GDP of the country. So, this is something which I hold onto even after the COVID situation.
in passenger vehicles, I can share and say that the early trends I've seen that customers are downsizing their purchases in terms of they're trying to conserve cash. They're looking
Hmm.
for more value for money. India, we typically have seen in earlier times that people were going for bigger SUVs and bigger cars and top end variants. The sales trend of the past 2 months seems people are going more for entry level cars to mid variants. They're trying to save in money in some way or the other. The cost of operations is playing a critical role in terms of deciding what kind of car they want to buy, and diesel and petrol prices are hitting the roof. How do you seeing any trends in tires in terms that people are looking for different sizes? They cannot change the sizes. The sizes remain what the OEM specify. But in terms of maybe cheaper options are downsizing or maybe smaller tires, how do you see the trend happening in tire market?
Let me take this question in two parts. The first thing you said about how the consumers seem to be gravitating towards the smaller cars to conserve cash. Definitely, people's balance sheets are affected, so they will want to save cash.
Yeah,
But I see that as a short-term phenomenon. I see
yeah,
that that will be a few months. It might have some impact, but longer term, the base phenomenon, the underlying trend will come back, which was
okay.
more towards the compact utility vehicles, which was more towards upgrading of the luxury and the safety features of the car. So underlying, I think that is going to happen. In the short term, yes, there might be some shift or there might be some conserving of cash, but that can be addressed by different ways. I mean, there are leasing models for cars available. So I expect maybe that will happen more rather than outright purchase. People might want to go for leased cars, which is a good way to balance your cash flows. So that is the first part of the question. That is my view on how the auto industry will behave. In the tires, you rightly said that the tire size is decided when people buy the car. So they're not going to change that much. So any impact of this downsizing, we will only see 2, 3 years down the line, if at all. Currently, we do not notice any trend that people are trying to downgrade because, on the other hand, safety has become very important, right? People have realized that in life, health, safety is much more important than some of the other things. So I don't think people are skimping on areas where it might affect their safety, and that is rightly so. uh, but also this option of leasing tires could be something which picks up, especially in the commercial vehicle, because it's a sizable investment that a truck driver or a fleet owner does in the tires. So they might want to be switching to a what we call a tires as a service model, where they don't buy the tires outright. We sign a contract with them to maintain their tires throughout the lifetime, and then they pay us as they use the tires. So we definitely hope that that trend will catch on more, and more fleet owners will want to tie up with longer contracts with us for conserving their cash and eventually helping in conserving cost as well.
Do you see any India specific model emerging? Because in India we have less of big tour operators and transport companies. It's more different model in terms of sometimes owner come driver kind of model, and small entrepreneurs and single truck owner kind of model that's more operating in India. Is there a evolution of a newer model that might help in India market to evolve?
So yeah, you're right. In India, there are many tiers in the fleets. You do have the huge fleets, the mega
Yeah,
fleets, and then you have the mid fleets, which are 100 trucks per
yeah,
fleet or 200 trucks, and then a large segment of the market is the mom and pops owner drivers. And their needs are different. There, if you can offer them a model such as EMI on the tires, that will be very useful. While for the mid and the large fleets, I think what I was describing before, where we come and give a professional tire management service, that will
yeah.
catch on much more. So
Okay.
it will depend on the segment of the customer, and companies like us are prepared with various models for those different segments.
Okay. Okay. Bridgestone is a global company, and you have operations and offices working in all nook and corner of the world. Every major market you have presence. How do you see the model evolving in terms that the situation is worldwide? It's a global phenomenon. You must be talking to your counterparts and other global people across different geographies. What has been the learnings in overseas markets? Because India is following the trend. It started a bit earlier in Europe, then US, now India and other markets. What has been the learning for you in terms of coping up with the situation?
So that is really a very important advantage we have, being part of a global company. And especially in this situation, our operations in China, Southeast Asia experienced this much before us. And then later came Europe, and now we are experiencing it. And we continue to interact with our colleagues there. And the most important thing that we have focused on is learning from them when they come back to work in the plant, because in our plants we are employing a lot of people. We have, in each plant we have about 1,000, 1,200 people. How do you bring them back in a safe way? What kind of safety practices, what kind of processes that you need to follow to ensure that all our teammates will remain safe? That has been the biggest learning, I would say, and which we are um, very diligently implementing in both our plants in India.
Okay, okay. And how do you see the digitalization happen? Many companies, OEM saying that digital play a critical role. I know Tyre is a very diversified business. You have so many sizes and different segments are there, and you have to kind of make your sales model according to various customer profiles. But generally, digitalization will play a critical role, or the brick and mortar will continue to have a major presence.
So digital technology is disrupting all industries, right?
Okay.
Every industry that you know of, digital technology has a potential to disrupt and is already disrupting. So automotive industry is no different. And I would say tire industry is also going to be impacted going forward. And to some extent, this COVID shock will accelerate the development in digital technologies.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we see this as an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Bridgestone, being a global company, we are one of the front runners in digital solutions.
Okay.
So I was talking earlier about the tires as a service model.
Yeah.
I think the
Yeah.
key there is to be able to capture the data from the different tires so that you can prolong the life of the tire, you can become more efficient in fuel, and all that is further enabled by digital technology. So I think we are looking into that very actively at a group level to see how we can leverage digital technologies. If you come to India, There is a lot of talk of whether e-commerce will have a big impact on tire sales, like it has had on many other retail areas. I would say tires is a little bit of a different category because it still needs professional tools, professional skills to fit a tire. So what we see is that it will be a more like a omni-channel approach where consumers more and more are searching for information, are searching for the right products online, and then they are going to physical stores to get those products fitted. And we have tried to enable that in response to COVID. We have launched a online service which is called bookmyservice.com. The idea here is to minimize the time that anyone has to spend at a physical tire shop. So consumers can go online and book an appointment with a dealer close to their location, get a very specific time, and then go and get their tires serviced, changed, whatever, in a very short and efficient time. So this is one way where I think COVID and digital coming together has created a win-win situation for consumers and for the company. And there will be other such opportunities going forward, which we are exploring actively.
And how do you see the commercial vehicle segment? Because tires play a very critical role in terms that they're the second largest operating cost for, especially the truck segment, which is where the cost is very precise in terms of it's extremely sensitive how to operate the entire fleet of trucks. Uh, what do you see in terms of commercial vehicles? We have been seeing that there's overcapacity because the freight movement has slowed down. How has been the demand so far, and how do you see commercial vehicle coming back? Do you see some good consumption happening over the next few months, or it's a bit delayed story for commercial vehicle segment in India?
So the fleet movements has started up.
Okay.
We estimate it to be about 60-70% of the pre-COVID levels
Okay.
in the last couple of weeks,
Okay.
which I think is pretty okay, and it is ramping up fast. So in the short
Mhm.
term, I think it will come back to what it was at the pre-COVID level. Now there is a bigger question with the axle load change. There was a significant increase in capacity, uh, load carrying capacity in the country, and that can only be balanced if there is a good growth in the economy, there's a good growth in the GDP. So it will depend a lot on how the Indian GDP is going to perform. I would say not in the next 3 months, but in the beginning or towards the end of this fiscal year. Yeah, the last quarter of 2020 and the first quarter of 2021, if we see a healthy recovery, then I think that augurs well for the commercial vehicle industry. If it continues to remain subdued with the current levels of utilization for some quarters to come.
In the light of your massive capacities, and do you foresee a kind of a potential and a need to venture into new segments? You are not present in two-wheelers. India is world's largest two-wheeler market. I know the sizes are very different. It's a competitive market. How do you see the business case for different diversified segments of India?
So, like I mentioned, we are very strong in the passenger car segment. That's our forte. We are growing very quickly in the truck and bus segment, which we entered into in 2013-14. What I did not mention is we are also active in the off-road segment. We do not manufacture those tires in India. We get them from our global manufacturing units, but that is another business which has been growing very regularly and steadily for us. So we are looking at all segments because
Yeah.
within the group, within the Bridgestone group, we have manufacturing capability for all different segments in the tire world.
Mhm.
So we are scanning the market, and when we see an opportunity, we can always start by bringing in products from our other plants. And if we see a significant growth opportunity, then as a company, we have been prepared to invest. That is what our history has shown us. So we will continue with that approach, get solidify our position in our core businesses, and keep exploring new areas to venture into.
And how do you see the import business in terms that there have been certain government orders they keep on happening? How's the overall optimism in terms of imports of tires to India? I believe many of the sizes you don't manufacture, but you kind of procure and you source from other global operations. How has been the overall strategy and market for that?
So for us, import is a very small part of the total business because our main business we make in India for India.
Yeah.
That's been our policy. Now that the tires are placed in the restricted category, of course, it is going to increase the bureaucracy to get
Okay.
tires in.
Okay.
So initially, it might result in some delays, but again, for people who are doing legitimate business, it is not a matter of concern.
Okay.
Uh, in a way, I would say it is good because a number of tires were getting imported in India through the gray channel. Hopefully, that will be stopped,
Okay.
and that is very important because tires are such an important product for the safety. People spend a lot of money in their cars to buy airbags and rumble proof zones and whatnot, but if the tire is not of the right quality, then it can lead to the beginning of an accident. So I'm happy that spurious material will not get in easily into the Indian market, and it will improve the safety of everyone. For legitimate companies like ours, multinational companies, it's not an issue.
As a motoring journalist, I always advocate to people that if you spend your money on buying good shoes to make yourself comfortable, you always spend money on buying good tires, because
Exactly.
a good tire can save your life sometime. It's quite
Exactly.
possible.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It is the only part of the automotive which is touching the road. And
yeah,
nowadays we are driving at speeds which are in excess of 100, 120 kilometers.
yeah,
So to
yeah.
have the best quality in the tire is very, very important.
Bridgestone is the world's largest tire company, and you have, in fact, you set standards for other OEMs in terms of manufacturing and performance and all. But India has a unique proposition that the homegrown tire makers have a very significant presence in the market. And how do you see that happening in terms that in automotive, we have seen global companies doing fairly well in India, but in tires, we see a big challenge for global tire makers coming from Indian companies. And how do you see that global companies able to leverage their expertise, their potential in Indian market in the long term?
So first of all, I think I respect my Indian competition. I think
Yeah,
over the last few decades, they've done a good job in investing in the right technology and brought their product quality to a good level. Obviously, they also had a head start. So many of the multinational companies and later into the market. We entered 20 years ago, and you can see that once you are in, then you can establish a leadership position. Um, but now the world market is so interconnected. So we do not differentiate between Indian manufacturers and global manufacturers.
okay,
When we are operating in India, we are operating like an Indian manufacturer, and we consider the Indian companies as good, strong competition. And I'm sure they are looking at Bridgestone in other markets and thinking the same. I think all of us need to continue to invest in quality, need to continue to invest in technology which will help the environment, because we have our role to play in conserving the environment. And these are some areas where uh, Bridgestone can drive the industry standard, so to say. So if we come ahead and we introduce a product which is environmentally friendly and consumers like it, then naturally the whole tire industry will be forced to follow. So I think that is the role that as a global leader we should be playing, and we are playing.
okay, okay. And as a manufacturing company with massive operation, 3,000 is a good number of workforce. Uh, how do you see the Make in India campaign and the entire government initiative going forward? Because you have two good manufacturing plants in India, and especially as you pass through the COVID times, how do you see the manufacturing coming back in a big way? And what potential do you see possible exports from India?
So manufacturing is the backbone of any economy.
Yeah,
We need a significant portion of the economy to come from manufacturing because it is clear value added and it creates employment. So I'm very glad that the Indian government continues to focus on increasing the manufacturing in India. For us, it has been always the case that we believe in local for local. So when we came into India, we set up our manufacturing plant, and more than 90% of the business is done from locally manufactured product, and large part of our supply chain sourcing is also local. Um, Going forward, I think there is good, um, at least the intention from all state governments where we operate. We operate in Maharashtra, we operate in Madhya Pradesh. We see there is a strong desire from the Industrial Development Corporation and from the government to understand what industry needs and to provide that support. I think that is a good initiative and it's a good way to engage with industry. And we need to continue that because India is still some way away from having at least 25% of the GDP come from manufacturing. So I'm a strong proponent of that, and I participate actively with the relevant government bodies to help develop this in the right direction.
Thank you, Parag. Thank you so much for talking to ET Auto. And I wish you great and safe times in this COVID era when manufacturing is trying to come back and normalize the situation. It's a great opportunity for people to work and bring the Indian economy back on track. Thank you so much for talking to ET Auto.